You already know what this video is about, and the fact that you clicked on it tells me something important. You are tired of the cycle. Scorpio, you have spent years, maybe even decades, testing the people around you. You drop little hints. You watch how they respond. You pull back to see who reaches out. You say something just slightly provocative to measure whether they flinch or hold steady. And every single time you do this, you are looking for one thing. Proof. Proof that they care. Proof that they are loyal. Proof that they will not leave when things get hard. But here is the uncomfortable truth that nobody else is going to tell you. All of that testing has not given you what you actually want. It has not given you peace. It has not given you trust. And it has not given you the deep, unshakable connection you have been craving since before you even had the words to describe it. In fact, if you are being completely honest with yourself right now, all of that testing has probably pushed away some of the very people who would have stayed. And that is not a failure on your part. That is a pattern. A deeply rooted, deeply protective pattern that made perfect sense when it started. But it is quietly destroying the things you care about most. So today we are not going to talk about why you test people. You already know why. Today we are going to talk about what to do instead. And I am not going to give you fluffy advice or tell you to just relax and trust more. That does not work for someone like you. What I am going to share with you are 10 specific grounded shifts that will change the way people respond to you, the way you feel in your relationships, and honestly, the way you experience your own life. Stay until the end because the last few sections are going to hit differently than anything you have heard before. Tip 1. Recognize that testing is a language you learned, not a language you chose. Let me take you back to a moment you might not even remember clearly, but your body remembers it perfectly. There was a time early in your life when you trusted someone completely. You gave them access to the deepest, most tender part of who you are. And what happened next left a mark that you carry to this day. Maybe they betrayed that trust. Maybe they used what you shared against you. Maybe they simply disappeared without explanation. Whatever happened, your nervous system made a decision in that moment. A decision you did not consciously choose. It decided that vulnerability without verification is dangerous. And from that point forward, you developed a system. A brilliant, sophisticated, emotionally intelligent system for checking whether people are safe before you let them in. That system is what we call testing. And here is what I need you to understand. That system is not a flaw. It was a survival mechanism. It kept you safe during a time when you did not have the tools or the power to protect yourself any other way. The problem is not that you developed this system. The problem is that you are still running software that was designed for a version of your life that no longer exists. You are no longer that child or that younger version of yourself who had no options. You are a fully grown, deeply perceptive, incredibly capable human being. And you have resources now that you did not have then. You have the ability to read people, to set boundaries, to walk away, to speak up, to protect yourself without needing to run covert operations on every person who gets close to you. So the first shift is simply this. Awareness. Not judgment, not shame, just honest recognition that the testing behavior you have been running is a learned language. It is a dialect of fear dressed up as wisdom. And when you can see it for what it is, you can begin to make a different choice. You do not have to hate this part of yourself. In fact, I would encourage you not to. That protective instinct has gotten you through some incredibly difficult situations. But you can start to notice when it activates. You can start to catch yourself in the moment you are about to set up a little loyalty exam for someone you care about. And in that moment, instead of running the test, you can ask yourself a different question. What am I actually afraid of right now? That question alone will change everything. Because when you name the fear, the test becomes unnecessary. The fear is the real conversation. The test was just a way to avoid having it. And you, Scorpio, are not someone who avoids hard things. You have survived things that would have broken most people. So this is not about becoming soft or letting your guard down recklessly. This is about upgrading your defense system from one that pushes people away to one that draws the right people closer. That is the shift. And it starts with recognizing that the testing language you speak so fluently was never your mother tongue. Your real language is depth. It is honesty. It is the kind of raw, unfiltered truth that most people are too afraid to speak. And when you start leading with that instead of tests, the people around you will respond in ways that genuinely surprise you. Tip 2. Stop withdrawing as a measurement tool. There is something Scorpio does that almost no other sign does with such precision. and it is the strategic withdrawal. You have perfected this move over the years, and it looks something like this. You feel a slight shift in someone's energy. Maybe they responded a little late. Maybe their tone was off. Maybe they made plans without telling you. And instead of saying something directly, you pull back. You go quiet. You stop initiating. And then you wait. You wait to see how long it takes them to notice. You wait to see if they come looking for you. You wait to see if they care enough to cross the distance you have just created. And depending on how they respond to your withdrawal, you make a judgment. If they come running, they pass the test. If they do not, they have just confirmed your worst suspicion. They were never really committed in the first place. But here is where this strategy falls apart, and I want you to really hear this. Most people do not even realize you have pulled back on purpose. They are not ignoring your withdrawal. They are confused by it. They think you are busy or tired or just need space. And while you are sitting there watching the clock, measuring their response time like a scientist running an experiment, they are going about their day completely unaware that they are being evaluated. So what actually happens is this. You create distance. The other person does not respond the way you expected because they do not even know there is a test happening. And then you interpret their normal, unaware behavior as evidence of betrayal or indifference. And then the resentment builds. And then the wall goes up. And now you are further from connection than you were before you started. This cycle is one of the most damaging patterns Scorpio carries, and it is entirely invisible to the people around you. They just know that one day everything seemed fine and the next day you were cold, distant, and unreachable. And they have no idea what they did wrong, because often they did not do anything wrong at all. The shift here is radical, and it is this. When you feel the urge to withdraw as a measurement, replace it with a statement. A direct, honest, even uncomfortable statement. Something like, I noticed you did not call me back, and it made me feel like I am not a priority right now. That sentence is more powerful than any withdrawal you have ever executed, because it does something a withdrawal never can. It gives the other person a chance to respond to what is actually happening. Withdrawal is a monologue. It is you making assumptions, gathering evidence, and reaching a verdict, all without the other person even being aware there is a trial taking place. A direct statement is a dialogue. It is messy, it is vulnerable, and it feels terrifying for someone like you because it requires you to show your cards before you know if the other person is going to match them. But this is where real trust is built, Scorpio. Trust is not built in certainty. It is built in the space between the question and the answer. It is built when you say what you feel without knowing how it will land, and the other person meets you there. And yes, sometimes they will not meet you there. Sometimes they will disappoint you. But at least you will know the truth quickly and clearly. Instead of spending weeks in a silent standoff that drains your energy and corrodes the relationship from the inside out, you deserve better than a life spent in withdrawal. You deserve to be seen by people who know exactly what you need. Because you told them. That is the upgrade. That is the evolution. Not hiding your needs and hoping someone is perceptive enough to decode your silence, but speaking your truth with the kind of fierce honesty that only a Scorpio can deliver. If what you're hearing feels accurate, imagine what could happen if you applied this energy intentionally for 21 consecutive days. That's exactly what the 21-day program in the pinned comment is built for. Daily guidance, focused direction, and real momentum. If you're tired of staying in the same cycle, this is your structure. Tip 3. Replace suspicion with curiosity. This one is going to challenge you. And I say that with the deepest respect for how your mind works. Scorpio, your ability to detect what is beneath the surface is unmatched. You see through people. You pick up on micro-expressions, tone shifts, hesitations, and contradictions that fly completely over the heads of everyone else in the room. That ability is extraordinary. It is one of your greatest gifts. But here is the problem. That gift has a shadow side. And the shadow side is that you can become so skilled at detecting threats that you start seeing threats where none exist. Your radar is so finely tuned that it sometimes picks up static and interprets it as a signal. Someone pauses before answering a question, and you assume they are hiding something. Someone changes the subject, and you assume they are deflecting. Someone compliments you, and you wonder what they want from you. And over time, this constant state of suspicion becomes exhausting. Not just for the people around you, but for you. Living in a world where everyone is potentially lying, potentially manipulating, potentially about to betray you. That is not strength. That is a prison. and you built it yourself brick by brick with every assumption you made without checking. So here is the shift. Replace suspicion with curiosity. When someone does something that triggers your threat detection system, instead of immediately constructing a narrative about their motives, get curious. Ask yourself, is there another explanation I have not considered? Could this person simply be having a bad day? Could they be distracted by something that has nothing to do with me? Curiosity is not weakness. Curiosity is intelligence applied with humility. It is the recognition that your perception, as powerful as it is not infallible. You see a lot, Scorpio, but you do not see everything. And the things you do not see are often the things that would change your entire interpretation of a situation. When you lead with suspicion, you put people on trial. They feel it. They sense that you are scanning them, evaluating them, looking for cracks in their story. And that energy makes people nervous. It makes them clumsy. It makes them act in ways that actually look suspicious, even when they have done nothing wrong. So ironically, your suspicion often creates the very behavior it was designed to detect. But when you lead with curiosity, something remarkable happens. People relax. They open up. They feel safe enough to be honest, even about uncomfortable things. And that gives you access to far more accurate information than suspicion ever could. Think about it this way. A detective who walks into an interrogation room with the assumption that the person is guilty will find evidence of guilt no matter what. A detective who walks in with genuine curiosity, wanting to understand what actually happened, will find the truth. You want the truth, Scorpio. That has always been your deepest drive. Not the version of the truth that confirms your fears, but the actual unfiltered, complete truth. And the fastest path to that truth is curiosity, not suspicion. This does not mean you stop paying attention. It does not mean you ignore your instincts. Your instincts are valuable, and they should be honored. But there is a difference between an instinct and an assumption. An instinct says something feels off, let me explore this. An assumption says something feels off, therefore this person is lying. Learn to sit in the space between the instinct and the conclusion. Learn to hold your perception lightly, like a hypothesis rather than a verdict. That space, that pause between feeling and judgment, is where wisdom lives. And you are wise enough to live there, even when your fear is telling you to skip ahead to the conclusion and protect yourself. Curiosity is your upgrade from detective to sage. And the sage always sees more clearly than the detective, because the sage is not looking for a specific answer. The sage is simply looking. Tip 4. Let people be imperfect without making it mean something about their loyalty. This is one of the hardest lessons for Scorpio, and it is also one of the most liberating once you truly absorb it. You have a tendency, and I say this with compassion, to interpret imperfection as evidence. When someone makes a mistake, forgets something important, says the wrong thing at the wrong time, or fails to show up the way you expected, your mind does not simply register it as a human error. Your mind processes it through a very specific filter, and that filter asks one question. What does this reveal about who they really are? And the answer your mind generates is almost always the worst possible interpretation. They forgot your birthday, so they do not actually care about you. They were late to dinner, so you are not a priority. They did not notice you were upset, so they are emotionally unavailable. And each of these interpretations becomes a piece of evidence in a growing case file that you keep on every person in your life. A case file that you never show them, but that silently shapes every interaction you have with them. Here is the truth that will set you free if you let it. People are imperfect. All of them. Every single person you have ever loved, will ever love, or currently love is going to disappoint you at some point. Not because they are disloyal, not because they are careless, but because they are human. And being human means having limits, blind spots, bad days, selfish moments, and all the messy, contradictory behavior that comes with being alive. When you make every imperfection mean something about their loyalty, you are essentially holding people to a standard that no one can meet, including yourself. And deep down, you know that. You know that you have had moments where you were not at your best, where you said something hurtful, or withdrew when someone needed you, or let your own fear make you cold and dismissive. And if someone judged your entire character based on those moments, it would not feel fair. Because those moments are not the whole story. They are chapters, sometimes painful chapters, but they do not define the book. The shift here is learning to hold people's imperfections without immediately assigning them to the loyalty category. Someone can love you deeply and still forget to call. Someone can be completely committed to you and still say something thoughtless. Someone can choose you every single day and still have moments where they are distracted, overwhelmed, or simply not at their best. These things are not contradictions. They are the reality of what it means to be in relationship with another human being. And if you can make space for that reality, if you can allow people to stumble without putting them on trial, something extraordinary happens. They stop being afraid of making mistakes around you. And when people are not afraid of making mistakes around you, they show you who they really are. They stop performing. They stop walking on eggshells. They stop editing themselves to try to pass your invisible tests. And in that unguarded, authentic space, you get to see the truth you have been searching for all along. Not the curated, careful version of someone trying to earn your approval, but the raw, honest, beautifully imperfect version of someone who trusts you enough to be themselves. That is what you have been looking for, Scorpio. Not perfection, not flawless loyalty, but the kind of trust that only exists when both people are free to be fully human. You build that trust not by demanding perfection, but by demonstrating that imperfection is safe. And when you become the kind of person who makes imperfection safe, you will never have to test anyone again, because the people who stay will be staying for real. Tip 5. Stop keeping score and start keeping connection. If there is one thing that quietly erodes almost every relationship Scorpio has, it is the invisible scoreboard. You know exactly what I am talking about, even if you have never admitted it out loud. Somewhere in the back of your mind there is a running tally. Every favor given and not returned. Every sacrifice made and not acknowledged. Every time you showed up for someone and they did not show up for you in the same way. That scoreboard is always updating, always calculating, and always measuring whether the balance is even. And when it tips too far in one direction, when you feel like you have been giving more than you have been receiving, something shifts inside you. A door closes, a wall goes up, and the other person feels the temperature drop without understanding why. Here is the problem with scorekeeping, and this applies to every area of your life, not just romantic relationships. It turns connection into a transaction. When you are keeping score, you are not relating to people. You are doing business with them. You are tracking inputs and outputs. You are measuring return on investment. And while that might be a brilliant strategy for managing finances, it is a devastating strategy for managing love. Because love does not balance. It never has and it never will. There will always be seasons where one person gives more and the other receives more. There will always be phases where the scales tip unevenly. That is not a sign that something is wrong. That is the natural rhythm of any real relationship. The person who gives more this month might need to receive more next month. The one who carries the emotional weight this year might need to set it down next year. And if both people are genuinely committed, it all evens out over time, not because anyone is counting, but because care naturally flows in both directions when trust is present. But when you keep score, you interrupt that natural flow. You start withholding. You think, I am not going to reach out first because I reached out last time. Or, I am not going to be vulnerable because they did not match my vulnerability last time. And every act of withholding creates a little crack. And over time, those cracks become canyons. The shift is this. Instead of tracking what you give and receive, track how connected you feel. Connection is the real currency, not effort, not sacrifice, not who called who first. Ask yourself, do I feel seen in this relationship? Do I feel safe? Do I feel like this person genuinely cares about my well-being? If the answer is yes, then the scoreboard is irrelevant. Because the score was never about fairness. It was about fear. Fear that you are giving more than you are worth. Fear that your generosity will be exploited. Fear that if you stop keeping track, people will take advantage of your depth. And those fears are understandable given your history, but they are not serving you anymore. They are keeping you stuck in transactional relationships when what you really want is transformational ones. A transformational relationship is one where both people give freely, not because they are counting, but because giving feels natural. Where both people show up, not to earn points, but because showing up for someone you love is its own reward. You are capable of that kind of relationship, Scorpio. You are built for it, actually. Your capacity for depth, for loyalty, for devotion is unmatched. But that capacity gets wasted when it is filtered through a scoreboard. So put the scoreboard down. Not because the other person deserves blind trust, but because you deserve to experience love without a calculator running in the background. You deserve to give without measuring. To receive without guilt. To be in a relationship where the only thing being tracked is how deeply you are connected to each other. That is the kind of love that lasts. And it starts the moment you stop counting. Tip 6. Learn to trust process instead of demanding proof. Scorpio wants evidence. You want receipts. You want undeniable, concrete, unmistakable proof that someone is who they say they are before you let them anywhere near your heart. And on the surface, that sounds perfectly reasonable. Why would you trust someone without proof? But here is where the strategy breaks down. The kind of proof you are looking for does not come on your timeline. Real trust, the deep bone-level trust that you crave, is not something that can be demonstrated in a single grand gesture. It is not proven by passing one test or surviving one crisis or saying the right thing at the right moment. Real trust is built slowly, quietly, and incrementally, through hundreds of small moments that individually seem insignificant, but collectively form an unshakable foundation. The problem is that Scorpio does not like slow. You do not like incremental. You want certainty and you want it now. So instead of letting trust build naturally, you try to accelerate the process by creating situations that force people to prove themselves immediately. You manufacture crises. You create ultimatums. You push people to their breaking point to see if they snap or hold steady. And when they inevitably struggle under that pressure, you interpret their struggle as failure. But you were never testing their loyalty, Scorpio. You were testing their tolerance for being tested. And those are two very different things. A deeply loyal person can still fail your test if the test itself is unreasonable. A genuinely devoted partner can still walk away if they feel like they are constantly being put through trials they never signed up for. And when that happens, you do not lose them because they were disloyal. You lose them because they were exhausted. The shift here is one of the most important ones in this entire conversation, and it is this: learn to trust the process instead of demanding proof. Trust is not a verdict that gets delivered at the end of a trial. Trust is a garden that gets tended daily. It grows when someone shows up consistently, when they remember what matters to you, when they follow through on small promises, when they are honest even when honesty is uncomfortable. These moments do not look dramatic. They do not make for a big reveal. But they are the actual building blocks of the kind of trust you are searching for. And when you learn to recognize them, when you train your eyes to see the evidence of love in the small things instead of demanding it in the big things, you will realize that many of the people in your life have been proving their loyalty all along. You just could not see it because you were looking for the wrong kind of proof. You were looking for grand gestures when the real evidence was in the everyday. The text that said, "I am thinking about you." The cup of coffee made without being asked. The patience they showed when you were difficult and the choice to stay even when leaving would have been easier. That is proof, Scorpio. That is the evidence you have been looking for. It was right in front of you the entire time. In the quiet, unglamorous, completely undramatic moments that real love is actually made of. So stop demanding proof that looks like a movie scene. Start noticing the proof that looks like a Tuesday, because that is where trust lives. Not in the grand gestures, but in the gentle, steady, relentless showing up that happens when someone truly loves you. And once you learn to see it, you will never feel the need to test for it again. Tip 7. Give people the benefit of the doubt before you give them the verdict. This might be one of the most transformative shifts you ever make, and it is deceptively simple. Scorpio, your mind moves fast. When something happens that triggers your protective instincts, your brain can construct an entire narrative in seconds. Someone cancels plans, and within moments you have built a complete story about why they canceled, what it means about how they feel about you, and what you should do in response. And that story is almost always dark. It almost always assumes the worst. It almost always leads to a conclusion that confirms your deepest fear: that people cannot be trusted. But here is what I want you to consider. That speed, that lightning-fast ability to assess and conclude is not always your friend, because the fastest conclusion is rarely the most accurate one. It is the most emotionally convenient one. It is the one that aligns with your existing beliefs, your past wounds, and your protective patterns. It is the conclusion that feels true, but that does not mean it is true. Giving someone the benefit of the doubt does not mean being foolish. It does not mean ignoring red flags. It does not mean pretending everything is fine when your instincts are screaming that something is wrong. What it means is creating a small pause between the event and your interpretation. A space where you consciously choose to consider alternative explanations before locking into the worst one. Maybe they canceled because they had a genuine emergency. Maybe they said something clumsy because they were nervous, not because they were being dishonest. Maybe they did not respond to your message because their phone died, not because they are pulling away. These explanations might sound simple, even obvious. But for Scorpio, they are revolutionary. Because your default setting is to skip past all of these possibilities and go straight to the most threatening interpretation. And that default setting has cost you relationships, opportunities, and peace of mind that you will never get back. The benefit of the doubt is not a gift you give to other people. It is a gift you give to yourself. Because when you assume the worst about everyone, you live in a world that is hostile, unpredictable, and exhausting. But when you allow for the possibility that people might be exactly who they say they are, you give yourself permission to relax. You give yourself permission to enjoy your relationships instead of constantly policing them. You give yourself permission to be surprised by goodness instead of always bracing for betrayal. And here is the thing that might really surprise you. When you start giving people the benefit of the doubt, the quality of your relationships will improve almost immediately. Not because the people around you change, but because the way you interact with them changes. When you approach someone with openness instead of suspicion, they feel it. They respond differently. They become more honest, more generous, more willing to meet you in that vulnerable space that real connection requires. Your energy sets the tone for every relationship you are in. If your energy says, "I am watching you and waiting for you to fail," people will tense up. They will guard themselves. They will give you less, not more. But if your energy says, "I trust you until you give me a real reason not to," people will rise to meet that trust. They will show you parts of themselves they have been afraid to share. They will give you the kind of honest, imperfect, deeply human love that you have been searching for. So before you deliver the verdict, Scorpio, pause, breathe. Consider the possibility that this moment is not a threat, that this person is not an enemy, that this situation might be far less dangerous than your fear is telling you it is. The verdict can always come later if it needs to. But once it has been delivered, the damage is often done. Give the doubt a chance first. You might be amazed at what it reveals. Tip 8. Build bridges instead of traps. There is a very specific energy that Scorpio carries into relationships, and it operates on a frequency that most people never even detect. It is the energy of the architect who designs structures with hidden trapdoors. You build beautiful, intricate connections with people. You are generous. You are attentive. You remember every detail. You show up in ways that make people feel deeply seen and deeply valued. But underneath all of that beauty, there are mechanisms built into the foundation. Little tests, little loyalty checks, scenarios designed to reveal whether this person is truly who they appear to be. And those mechanisms are so elegantly concealed that the person walking through your world has no idea they exist, until they accidentally trigger one. And then the floor opens up, and then they fall. And then they are left wondering what happened while you stand above them thinking, "I knew it. I knew they could not be trusted." But Scorpio, you designed the fall. You created the conditions that led to their failure. You built a structure that was beautiful on the surface but rigged underneath. And when someone falls through a trapdoor you built, that is not evidence of their untrustworthiness. That is evidence of your fear. The shift here is fundamental, and it will change the architecture of every relationship you build from this point forward. Stop building traps and start building bridges. A bridge is a structure designed for connection. It is built to help people reach you, not to test whether they deserve to. It is open, visible, and honest about where it leads. There are no hidden mechanisms. There are no surprise drops. There is just a clear, accessible path from their world to yours. And yes, building bridges feels more dangerous than building traps. Because a bridge gives people easy access to your heart. A trap gives you control over who gets close and how close they get. But control is not connection, Scorpio. Control is the opposite of connection. Control is what you reach for when you are too afraid to trust. And while it might protect you from certain kinds of pain, it also protects you from certain kinds of love. The kind of love that can only exist when both people feel safe. The kind of love that can only grow when neither person is walking on a floor they suspect might give way beneath them. Think about the people in your life who have lasted the longest. The ones who are still there, still showing up, still choosing you. I guarantee they are not the ones who pass the most tests. They are the ones who somehow managed to walk through your world without triggering the traps. Or they are the ones who were patient enough, forgiving enough, and stubborn enough to keep coming back even after they fell through. And those people did not stay because of your tests. They stayed despite them. Imagine how much richer those relationships would be if those people had never had to navigate the traps at all. Imagine how much deeper the trust would go if they had always felt safe in your world. Imagine how much more of themselves they would have shared if they were not always slightly bracing for the floor to disappear. You can build that world, Scorpio. You can create relationships where people feel completely, utterly, unreservedly safe. And when people feel safe with you, they will give you everything you have ever wanted. Honesty, loyalty, depth, devotion, and the kind of raw, unguarded love that most people only dream about. That love is on the other side of your fear. And the bridge to it is simple. Be the person who makes people feel safe, not the person who makes them prove they deserve to feel safe. Some people watch, others transform. If you want to be in the second group, the 21-day guide in the pinned comment gives you a clear step-by-step process aligned with your sign. This isn't about waiting, it's about moving. Tip 9. Become the person you are searching for. This one might sting a little, but you need to hear it, and I think deep down you already know it is true. Scorpio, you spend an extraordinary amount of energy evaluating other people. Are they loyal? Are they honest? Are they deep enough, strong enough, committed enough to deserve your trust? You hold everyone you meet up to an invisible standard that is incredibly high, almost impossibly high. And the few who manage to meet that standard get access to the most extraordinary love and devotion that any sign in the entire cycle is capable of giving. But here is the question that rarely gets asked, and it is the question that will change everything if you sit with it long enough. Do you meet your own standard? When you demand honesty from others, are you being fully honest with them? Not just about the facts, but about your feelings, your fears, your needs, and your insecurities. When you demand loyalty, are you being loyal in return? Not just in the obvious ways like physical fidelity, but in the subtle ways like not withdrawing emotionally when things get hard, not punishing people with silence, not holding grudges that you never communicate. When you demand depth, are you offering depth? Or are you offering a carefully curated version of yourself that keeps the real you hidden behind layers of protection? This is not about blame. This is about alignment. Because you cannot attract what you are not willing to be. You cannot demand vulnerability from someone while refusing to be vulnerable yourself. You cannot require openness from others while remaining closed. The universe does not work that way. Relationships do not work that way. Energy does not work that way. What you give is what you get. And if you are giving tests instead of trust, suspicion instead of openness, withdrawal instead of communication, that is exactly what will come back to you. Not because the universe is punishing you, but because you are setting the tone. You are establishing the rules of engagement. And every person who enters your life will play by those rules, whether they know it or not. The shift here is both simple and profound. Become the person you are searching for. If you want someone who is radically honest, practice radical honesty. If you want someone who communicates openly, start communicating openly. If you want someone who does not play games, stop playing games. If you want someone who gives you the benefit of the doubt, start giving it to others. You have been looking outside yourself for someone who embodies all the qualities you value most. But the fastest way to find that person is not to search harder. It is to become them. Because when you embody the qualities you are looking for, you naturally attract people who match that frequency. You do not have to test them. You do not have to trick them. You do not have to set up elaborate scenarios to see if they are worthy. They will reveal themselves simply by resonating with who you have become. This is the most elegant solution to every relationship challenge you have ever faced, Scorpio. Stop searching. Stop testing. Stop evaluating. Start becoming. Pour all that incredible energy you have been spending on monitoring other people into your own growth, your own healing, your own evolution. Become the kind of partner, friend, family member, and human being that you would want to be in a relationship with. And watch how everything around you begins to shift. Not because the world changed, but because you did. And when you change, Scorpio, you change everything. That is the power you carry. That is the alchemy you were born with. You do not just transform yourself. You transform every space you enter, every person you touch, and every relationship you are a part of. That power has been directed at testing and protecting for long enough. It is time to direct it at becoming and attracting. And when you do, the love that finds you will be unlike anything you have ever experienced, because it will finally be a mirror of who you faith over evidence. This last one is going to sound like the opposite of everything you believe in, and that is exactly why it might be the most important shift of all. Scorpio, you are a sign that lives and dies by evidence. You trust what you can see, verify, and prove. You believe in facts. You believe in patterns. You believe in what has happened before as the most reliable predictor of what will happen next. And on a practical level, that approach has served you well. It has helped you navigate a world that has not always been kind to you. It has helped you identify threats, avoid traps, and protect yourself from people who did not have your best interests at heart. But there is a cost to living entirely by evidence, and the cost is this. Evidence only tells you about the past, tells you what has happened, tells you what people have done before. It tells you about patterns that have already played out, but it tells you nothing about what is possible, nothing about what could happen if you made a different choice, nothing about the potential that exists in the space between what was and what could be. Faith is the bridge between the past and the future. And I do not mean faith in a religious sense, although it can include that if that resonates with you. I mean faith in the broadest, most universal sense. The willingness to believe in something you cannot yet see. The willingness to trust a process that has not yet delivered its results. The willingness to step forward into uncertainty without requiring a guarantee that the ground will hold. For Scorpio, this is terrifying. Uncertainty feels like danger. The unknown feels like a threat. And stepping forward without evidence feels like recklessness. But it is not recklessness. It is courage. It is the most profound form of courage that exists. The courage to believe that what is coming might be better than what has been. Think about it this way. If you only trust what evidence has shown you, you are essentially living in the past. You are making decisions based on who people were, not who they are becoming. You are building relationships based on what went wrong before, not what could go right now. You are filtering the present through the lens of the past and wondering why everything looks the same. Faith asks you to put down that lens, even for a moment. Faith asks you to look at the person in front of you and see them not as a collection of past behaviors and potential threats, but as a living, evolving, changing human being who is capable of surprising you. Faith asks you to trust that your future does not have to be a repetition of your past, that the people in your life right now are not the same as the people who hurt you before, that you are not the same person who got hurt before. Everything has changed. You have changed. And if everything has changed, then evidence from the past is no longer the most reliable guide. It is an outdated map to a territory that no longer exists. The new territory requires a new map, and that new map is drawn not with evidence but with faith. Faith in yourself, faith in the people you have chosen, and faith in the possibility that love does not always have to be earned through trials and tests. Sometimes it simply arrives. Sometimes it simply stays. Sometimes people are exactly who they appear to be, and the only test they need to pass is the test of time, not the test of Scorpio. Choosing faith over evidence does not mean abandoning your instincts. It does not mean ignoring real, genuine red flags. It means giving yourself permission to hope, permission to believe, permission to step into a relationship, a friendship, a new chapter of your life with your arms open instead of your fists clenched. And that openness, Scorpio, is where miracles happen. Not the dramatic lightning bolt kind of miracles, the quiet kind, the kind where you suddenly realize that someone has been loving you faithfully for years, and you were too busy testing them to notice. The kind where you look around your life and see that you are surrounded by people who have already proven themselves, not through your tests, but through their presence. That realization is waiting for you on the other side of faith. All you have to do is step forward without requiring the ground to prove it will hold you first. Everything I have shared with you today comes back to one central truth, and it is a truth that only Scorpio can fully understand because no other sign feels this deeply, wants this badly, or protects this fiercely. You test people because you love too much to be hurt carelessly. You withdraw because showing your real feelings has cost you before, and you swore you would never pay that price again. You keep score because you have been taken advantage of by people who mistook your generosity for weakness. Every single pattern we talked about today was born from a place of intelligence and survival. You are not broken. You never were. You are a deeply feeling, profoundly perceptive, intensely loyal soul who developed extraordinary defense mechanisms to navigate a world that was not always gentle with your heart. And those defense mechanisms worked. For a while, they kept you safe. They kept you whole. They kept you standing when everything around you was falling apart. But safety is not the same as fulfillment, and standing is not the same as thriving. You did not come here to merely survive, Scorpio. You came here to experience the kind of love and connection that most people only read about. The kind that shakes you to your core and rebuilds you from the ground up. The kind that makes you feel seen in places you did not even know existed inside yourself. And that kind of love is not found through testing. It is found through trust. Not blind trust, not foolish trust, but the kind of deliberate, conscious, courageous trust that says, I know I could get hurt, I know this could go wrong, and I am choosing to show up anyway with my whole heart, because the alternative, a life spent behind walls that no one can climb, is no longer acceptable to me. You are ready for this, Scorpio. You have been ready for longer than you think. Every difficult experience you have been through was preparing you for exactly this moment. The moment where you decide that the old patterns have served their purpose, and it is time for something new, something deeper, something real. The next chapter of your life is not about protecting yourself from pain. It is about opening yourself to the kind of joy that only comes when you stop requiring guarantees and start embracing possibilities. The people who are meant for you will find you, not because you tested them, but because you became the kind of person who no longer needed to. And that version of you is not someone you have to create from scratch. That version of you already exists. It is the version that has been hiding behind the tests, behind the walls, behind the withdrawals and the silence and the scorekeeping. It is the version that loves with a ferocity that is almost terrifying in its intensity. It is the version that the people closest to you have always caught glimpses of, the version they fell in love with, the version they keep hoping will stay instead of retreating behind the armor. Let that version of yourself breathe. Let it speak. Let it lead. Because when Scorpio stops testing and starts trusting, something shifts in the entire fabric of their reality. Doors open. People respond differently. Opportunities arrive that could not exist inside the old pattern. And the love that shows up will not need to be tested, because it will be felt so deeply and so clearly that no test in the world could tell you more than what your own heart already knows. You have two options after this video. Close it and hope things shift, or decide that the next 21 days will be different. If you choose the second, the structured 21-day transformation aligned with your sign is waiting in the pinned comment. The energy is already moving, the only question is whether you are.